I'm Craig Johnson. This is my first floor bathroom. So when you come over for a party, remember parties? You'll be able to look at all these photos of me and paintings. Today on Literary Lockdown, it's nonsense time. Think the loopy side of Victoriana. Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland books, the Gilbert and Sullivan operettas, The Importance of Being Earnest. It's really sort of a welcome counterweight, to all of the stolid morality and the sort of tragic emotionalism of most 19th century literature. Take that, Thomas Hardy. Oh, that reminds me. There was a story that once the sports announcer, Howard Cosell, he was at a golf tournament, and so he was trying to set the scene, and so he said, well, just look, ladies and gentlemen, the fog is rolling over the hills like a description out of a Thomas Hardy novel. Think about it. Just big chunks of Victorian prose coming over the treetops. Anyway, one of my favorite authors is Edward Lear. He is best known back in the day as a landscape painter, though, and an ornithological illustrator. Pictures of birds. But he played many musical instruments, he composed, and he was a master at whimsical verse, usually children's poems like the Jumblies. And, here's one I think you'll know. I'm going to say the first line, and then you do the second line. A quiz. Great. Ready? The owl and the pussycat went to sea. Good job. Okay, a little bit, though, of the darker side. Edward Lear was one of those sickly Victorians. He had asthma, bronchitis, suffered from really severe vision loss later in his life, and epilepsy as well, too. So he had seizures, even starting from when he was really young. He was also gay at a time when that wasn't really a fashionable thing to be. So he remained closeted for most of his life, but had some very fervent infatuations with some male friends who didn't love him that way. But he cheerfully bumbled on and grew an enormous Victorian beard. He had his cat Foss and his longtime Albanian-born chef named Georgius, who he once said, "He is a faithful friend, but a thoroughly unsatisfactory chef." Edward Lear also popularized the limerick. Now, not the naughty kind, but the eccentric, lovable limericks that are suitable for giggly kids. Here's one he wrote about himself. There was an old dairy down Derry who loved to see little folks merry. So he made them a book, and with laughter they shook at the fun of that dairy down Derry. It's kind of sweet. And yes, Edward Lear always repeats rather than rhymes the last line of each of his limericks. I know you want it more clever. That ain't his style, so you can Nantucket that out of here. So, goofy, childlike lunacy is what we're going for. So here are 10 limericks by Edward Lear, starting with another one about himself, and then we will head off further into sort of crazy land. There was an old man with a beard who said, "It is just as I feared. 2 owls and a hen, 4 larks and a wren have all built their nests in my beard." There once was a man in Melrose who walked on the tips of his toes, but they said, "It ain't pleasant to see you at present, you stupid old man from Melrose." I saw a strange person in brig who purchased no end of a wig, so that only his nose and the tips of his toes could be seen as he rushed about brig. There was a young lady in blue who said, "Is it you? Is it you?" When they said, "Yes, it is," she only replied, "Whiz." That baffling young lady in blue. Beware the old lady of Wick, who shrieked, "Tick-a-tick, tick-a-tick, chick-a-bee, chick-a-bore." Then she said nothing more, to the surprise of no one in Wick. There once was a man in Peru who watched his wife making a stew, but then by mistake in the stove she did bake that unfortunate man of Peru. There was an old man of Koblenz, the length of whose legs was immense. He went with one prance from Turkey to France and left all his friends in Koblenz. There was a young lady of Sweden who went by the slow train to Whedon. When they cried, "Whedon Station," she made no observation, but thought she should go back to Sweden. Beware the old lady of Dundalk. She tried to teach fishes to walk. When they tumbled down dead, she grew weary and said, "High time I went back to Dundalk." There was a young person in Smyrna whose grandmother threatened to burn her, but she seized on the cat and said, "Granny, burn that, you creepy old woman from Smyrna." Thank you. Fine. Here are 8 more. There was an old man of Abruzzi, so blind that he couldn't his foot see. When they said, "That's your toe," he replied, "Is that so?" That doubtful old man of Abruzzi. There once was this person in Tartary who divided his jugular artery. When he shrieked to his wife, she just said, "Oh, my life, your death will be felt by all Tartary." There was a young lady whose history was always considered a mystery. She sat in a ditch, although no one knew which, and composed a small treatise on history. There was an old person in China whose daughters were Jiska and Dinah, Amelia and Fluffy, Olivia and Chuffy, and all of them settled in China. There once was a lady in France who taught little ducklings to dance. When she said tick-a-tack, they only said quack, which annoyed every person in France. There was an old gent of Thermopylae who never did anything properly, so they yelled, "If you choose to boil eggs in your shoes, you shall never remain in Thermopylae." There once was a person in Pinner, as thin as a lath, if not thinner. They dressed him in white, then rolled him up tight. Now he cannot be seen about Pinner. There was an odd person of Blythe who cut up his meat with a scythe. When they said, "Well, I never," he cried, "Scythes forever," that voluble person of Blythe.